Hello, everybody. I'm Tyler Edlin, and I'm back here with Adam Duff.
Greetings.
And we have another challenge this month, and given it being Halloween and the spooky season, there was some flavor text. I don't remember exactly what it was. It was an excerpt from a novel, but essentially there's like these creepy, shadowy monster figures coming out of mist. Something along those lines, and that's what was the goal, was to illustrate that. So basically, we wanted to eliminate somebody trying to get creative with the play on words and to make something kind of cute, but we wanted a really strong theme, this month. So that's, I think, we kind of hit based off what I see. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we're gonna go, in no particular order, but from the top, or it's the opposite on the camera, left to right, top to bottom on my screen.
Yeah, let's do this. So we starting with the famous John Lau.
Yeah, the famous.
Right.
Unholy summoning. Okay, so this is something.
Lectures right on myself. Words could create their lives with human, semi-human, fortunately. Okay, excellent. The hold was grotesquely heterogeneous.
So this is
heterogeneous. That always incites fear in me. That word heterogeneous.
This is pretty well researched. I love the comps.
Yeah.
I don't know if I like any of them more, but I mean, based off the comp here, right? This one, that looks great.
Yeah.
I think maybe a little more ambient light or something, right, on the top of some of those forms. Just not like the way I'm painting it, but something a lot more subtle.
The thing that always kind of the thing that you got to watch out for. A lot of people like to rim light things, right?
Yeah.
And the thing you got to look out for when it comes to rim light is a light source falling on a three-dimensional object, even if it's something behind the character. So just simply having a thin uniform line flattens it. It makes it look like a cardboard cutout. So you got to watch out for that. Even a rim light's going to gently travel around certain surfaces depending on the roundness. So it's trickier. It's something that requires a little bit more work than just a line.
Yeah.
Right?
This is, again, a really crude abstraction. Sorry, I just fixed the audio. I'm glad we remembered on the first critique rather than, the 10th. But, yeah, if you can get this, really subtle and not, bold cyan like this, but something about as subtle as you can get, just to kind of pull off the a little bit of the outside form without doing, this is an intrusive sort of rim light on the thing, but still a little bit. Yeah. I think would help since it's so dark out there. The other thing too is you have lanterns back there. You could possibly light them to increase that ambience, kind of like you have down here. But I mean, it's a super direct and simple illustration. So I think there's a lot to like in that regards. It's not trying to overcomplicate anything.
Yeah. You know what I would also add to that is you don't want to be too redundant with your light sources. You have pink light coming from the bottom and pink light coming from the top. I would use those lanterns as an excuse to bring a second color into the shot, right? For sure.
And, if you can go warmer on the lanterns, and then do change this to a cooler pink, calm that color down.
Yeah.
Then you could have that nice play of what's it called? Contrast with the color. I don't know why. I don't even know what brush I'm using. It's a first person. Oh, the triangle. Okay. I see. Yeah, I'm just working things out. Gotta get warmed up. Yeah, well, I don't know why that's not. Oh, I know why. Never mind. Anyways, see now it'll work. If I get the lantern on, see it's light, and then you could keep basically pushing that up, and this is the real cheesy way to do it, right? But putting a little bit of that light in the environment, and then basically taking all of this jam, and then finding a way to cool that off a little bit.
You realize that I didn't even notice that he was holding on to a head until you just drew my attention to it.
Yeah.
You definitely could do something to push that, to pop, make that head pop a little bit more.
So that's again an ugly example of it, but definitely cooler down here, a little warmer up there.
Yeah.
And this has a lot of potential. I think the texture on the creature looks great. Another pass wouldn't kill it.
Yeah.
Which I think that'll be a theme a lot for this week, is the texture. That's right. That's a lot of the theme, kind of going forward with this week, is a creature sometimes is only as gross as his texture.
Yeah, it's true. Absolutely.
So like that, I've been working like a lot on that sort of stuff this week lately, Adam. Like just doing lots of raw creatures and getting like that slimy kind of malleable, grotesqueness like that. Yeah. It all is in the texture of that skin and the consistency of it and all that nasty stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
absolutely.
Great foundation regardless, John. Yeah. And the composition's nice and direct. I like a lot of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Really nicely done. All right, what do we got next? We have Adrian.
Hey, Adrian, welcome back. Oh, wow, there's some stuff going on. I think this is the passage, right down there.
Okay, what we did for the first mission indeed is too maligned. Sin was something altogether different and immeasurably more hideous and detestable. Okay. Now, right away, the first thing I'm going to point out, just looking, I'm just going to jump right at it, is you have those Grim Reapers in the back with the scythes, and the thing that really messed with my brain when I was looking at it from a distance is how that scythe on the one on the right of the beast is creating a tension with that foreground structure. You know, that kind of like.
I wasn't the first to call it this month. The Tangent Police is out.
Oh, that's the first thing I usually spot, right? Well, because it's the thing that catches your eye. So definitely, in the fact that it's an oversized scythe, it almost looks deliberately creating a tension, which you don't want to do that because that's going to make the entire cliffside and robot in the foreground and all of that completely get lost into the background. It creates it ruins your illusion of depth. So you always have to make sure to avoid that. Yeah, exactly.
And while we're on that scythe, Adam, I think due to the size of the characters and like kind of the general shape of it, there's almost like a bluntness to it, like not like whimsy, but it feels. I'm looking for the right word, but it feels a little too almost like cartoony to like be taken seriously. It's so big, it's so bulky, it's so bent and simple. Yeah. It kind like if this thing was like a lot smaller, and you really zoom in there. Remember the character, like essentially the scythe he was holding would be like this in diameter, like he's holding a mini tree, like Arnold Schwarzenegger did in the movie Commando. Yeah. Like you'd want to even my version here was like way too big, but something like that at most.
Yeah. Like a spear, like this more like a staff scythe type of thing, right?
Like something like that would be a lot more feasible for this size.
Yeah.
Like that thing was just massive.
I'm going to point out something that Tyler's doing as well. You notice how he kind of scribbled that scythe and gave it a bit of a weird shape to it? That actually gives it character. You want to stay away, when you're looking at forms like that, try to stay away from generic, basic forms. And try to break free from that and do something a little bit different. It gives whatever you're doing character. You don't want to just be informative. You want to be able to create shapes that are a little bit more entertaining to look at, right?
I'm also thrown off narratively by this element here. It's like some rune totem or obelisk or something, but it's the only thing in the scene. This character here is looking right at this when there's this massive creature here. There's a huge disconnect, basically, for me anyways, between this, and all of this.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the image is trying to say to me, basically.
Yeah.
Is that just me, Adam, or any of that for you?
Absolutely. It feels like three different subjects that are all kind of mashed into one, and what we're missing is a little bit of a continuity with the story between everything that's going on. What's the relationship between them? Is that robot looking at the creature off in the distance? Are the Grim Reapers more important, or is the big, tentacle creature more important?
Clearly, there's something like ancient and fantasy going on with that. We have what is it, like Cthulhu thing? You have that whole genre, and then there's like something like this is like a steampunk little mech walker. It's a whole lot of I'm not sure. I'm just not sure.
I'd say to kind of simplify the whole process of trying to figure out what the story is, you have to look at your work from a third-person perspective and ask yourself the question as if looking at somebody else's work, you want to be able to look at it and say, do I get what's happening? If nobody told me what the story was, can I just jump into this image in the first 0.5 seconds and know exactly what's going on? if there's too much left to question, your audience is not going to give you the benefit of the doubt. They're going to go, I don't know what this is about. And they're going to kind of walk away from it. So make sure that you answer those questions in your own head before you put the final stamp on something. All right? But I love the rendering, though. The rendering is freaking good.
I like this, Anton. I'm going to just try to see if I can milk a little contrast out of this, a little bit more out of this foreground anyway, to get, oh gosh, damn it. Here I thought on my new tablet that my selection skills was going to level up, but it just clipped on me.
He's being humble. We all know that he's the king of all things lasso tool, right?
Yeah.
Selection skills going on.
There we go. Well, let's work that just to start. I want to see a little bit more grit and detail out of that. So that's not the right way to go. Yeah, here we go.
Just push that depth a little bit.
See this, nudge that over like so. Yeah, this is feeling like I'm physically there now. Like a lot more. That's too far, but a lot more tangible.
Yeah, because you don't want to miss that. You don't want to lose that moody mist at the same time by adding too much contrast, right? But here's another thing. Suggestion is for your creature lost in the mist. I strongly suggest you check out the work by one of my personal favorite artists, Beksinski. He's a Polish artist, and he did a lot of like horror fantasy artwork and stuff like that. And look at how he will mist out everything, but then he'll have a punch of contrast around the face or something like that. Everything kind of gets fogged out, but then he has this intense, concentrated detail and contrast in a specific spot to pull your eye in. And you have a good excuse for that because you have this lovely hidden creature in the background, but it's just ever so barely not there. So throwing a shadow on that face.
You could pull like some of these forms out too with like weird little gross and again, this is an oversimplification of how these lines look or could work, but do something like that. You could also kind of select, I guess, some of the negative space of whatever this crazy freaking thing is that you have going on. So let's say that's another wing right here, right? If I were to even select something like this, grab my I'm gonna grab the what's it called, airbrush tool, and you could subtly hint at a few more of those little things, like almost like a cinematic lighting style. Like that's a little, again, brash. The more subtle, and I'm sorry this month, folks, for the washer machine in the background and the dog barking. It's kind of like my life is difficult right now. But see, like, get a subtle bloom, like there's some kind of light behind him, and then you can have that start to obscure the form behind him. Even looking at like James Zapata's stuff, he does this sort of effect really freaking good. Yeah. But I think it'll help atmospherically push your design and stuff. Watching more Stranger Things, that will help you. Lots of things you could do, to really push some of these ideas. The other thing that I want to end on that really bugs me is these rocks. It looks literally like you painted one rock and then copy pasted it, and they're all just so smooth, perfectly like the same shape and size.
Although, what are those rocks? Or are they creatures? They look almost like
that's what I'm saying.
Jellyfish or something like that.
Anton, make it go one way or the other. Like, these are little creatures with a shiny little shell, or they're rocks. Because, see, they actually have a completely different texture treatment as the rocks over here. So it's a bit awkward for me.
Yeah, the intention, I think, was it for not to be...
Here they are. They're supposed to be his eggs. I just noticed that, Adam.
Yeah. They're like they're beached jellyfish or something like that.
I'm sorry, Anton. I didn't even look over here. I was still drawn by your art.
Yeah, but I fell under the same impression because they're a little bit too close to those rocks. The color...
the coloring.
Exaggerate that reflection a little bit more.
Keep working their texture. Again, I think texture is going to be something we mention in everybody's feedback this month.
Yeah. I love, by the way, love the creativeness of this piece. Like, your creature design and throwing in very abstract concepts is really like 2 thumbs up for that, Antoine. I love it. I really think that's awesome.
All right, Kevin. What do we got this month, Kevin?
Putrid Goblins by Kevin Cosland. Putrid golf. Oh, and they're eating. That's disgusting, dude. What's wrong with you? Oh my god.
Is that like some sickened or diseased goblins that are what's it called? Like festering on like the entrails of like another.
Festering pustules on their back. Now if you want to go gross, all right, here's something for you, Kevin. If you want to go gross, you want people to literally gag when you're looking at this. Don't be afraid to push the envelope of disgusting. That's what entertains people. So if those pustules, make them shiny, stretched, ready to pop pus pustules that have nice reflection on them. Get people to really viscerally feel the fact that these are pulsating, pulsating sacks of pus. You know what I mean? Like, try to get into that. Have the light shine through them to show that they're a little translucent.
Yeah, what this is missing is that gross, wet, textury type of specular lighting on these red bits. I don't know if I'm going to nail it in a try or two, but just if I can put something down there to kind of emphasize that.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Actually, this brush is pretty good. So let me see here. Something like let me lay that down as a base. Cool that off actually with some purple. It's a subtle thing.
Yeah.
And I want to keep switching up my brush so I don't have it look too static or stale. I think this one, not the worst brush for it, but get this up. This is some subtle stuff, and again, it takes I think a few tries to really get looking where you want. But see, now it's like this is wet, and you can almost like feel the reflection coming off the some of these aspects.
You know what else I'm noticing? When you zoomed in, Tyler, I noticed that there was a lot of beautiful detail in this piece that's getting a bit lost in darkness. I would be tempted to bring some kind of an ambient light in there to help bring out those arms and a bit of the muscles in the chest. A little bit, because it's a bit too much of a flat value. So like have some kind of a bounce there, ambient light coming in and catching and bring out some of those volumes. Yeah, for sure.
Same thing, Adam. I'm going to take that form, for example. We can push that form, again, and working the texture at the same time to kind of basically send it home. I'm going to pick that, or like even this color, because this color is pretty solid. And I have a brush way too big, so I'm going to go down to like this much, 100, right? And you could start basically subtly putting a little bit of this light, into the form there. Something as simple as that.
Yeah, with a bit of a texture too, looks nice. It brings out a bit of that. We can start sensing the texture of the skin a bit better.
And then that recedes all the shadow area in here. This is another one of those things too where I think personally this will look 10 times creepier maybe if you take the eyes and work them. Give them like a nice dark yellow or orange. I'm trying to get the brush. Things are lagging a little bit because we have so much things going on right now, a little open. But I'm thinking like somewhere between like this and yellow.
Yeah.
Like really can get darken up the outsides. Actually put some detail into them, but. I definitely think I would go with that. Like it's always like a lot creepier when you see like those beady little glowing eyes, and it adds a little bit of character to them too.
Speaking humans, we're going to look to the eyes for some kind of an identity or lack thereof, right? So that's what we do instinctively as humans. We look at insects for the same thing, right? We see their eyes, we see their bug eyes, and we see a lack of soul, and that can creep us up, creep us out. So having empty, non-descriptive eyes can kill the idea when you have with some really nicely designed characters, right? So make sure that facial expression and those eyes are really speaking to your audience, for sure. Yeah, that's definitely.
See, like you want that ambient light to be caught, and then if this polyp thing, whatever the hell that is casting a shadow over part of it, then you would want to come back and account for all these form changes and all that information. So see, like here we clearly have one with the ambient light hitting it. We have a cast shadow from the one above it. You have the occluded light, and then this one has the example of the what's it called? The specular lighting. But yeah, that's kind of like the level of treatment an image like this really needs, so that it will just like pop with that grotesqueness.
Mm-hmm.
But great job, Kevin.
Oh yeah, Kevin too. You know, you had a nice ambient fog reference, but always step back from your work and say, okay, that got me the mood. What do I need to push the image? Go beyond your reference a little bit more. Like, don't just stick to it. There you go. What do we got here? Armand. Very nice, strong composition. Now, normally, under normal circumstances, I would say be careful not to over-centralize things, but because he's got a bit of a tilt, and because he's really kind of in a very confrontational pose, it works. But otherwise, you'd say be careful not to have everything like lined up down the middle, unless you want to create something that looks a bit, you know, monotone as far as the mood's concerned. But this actually works nicely. So yeah, what are you thinking?
Yeah, it is very centralized, which I think can work when you don't vignette it as strongly as you did. Like, I'm all about a cool, centralized, powerful pyramid, you know, classic Frazetta type of composition. But if you also look at a lot of Frazetta's work, you'll notice he never, like, kind of adds this curtain effect where it's, like, literally the same thing on the outsides. That, like, you know, here's my nice little display. Like, it's... And you're like, this guy here with this guy, everything is just too even. And when you go, like, note for note, symmetrical-wise, it can make things feel very static, very stale, a little stiff. But you could still, like, you know, if you change up the shapes or change up the direction of the lighting, the placement of the characters in the background, you could still rock that second, you know, vertical eye with your character in the middle. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd also say as far as the colors of nature and the colors of trees and bushes, it's you're coloring these trees more symbolically. Trees are green, trunk is brown, grass is green. Don't think that way. You want to start varying up the colors. Work with subtler colors, grays and browns. And, you know, earth tones and natural colors are very multicolored, and there's a lot more subtle. Colors than there are these rich saturated green colors. What it does is it risks making your painting look a little bit cartoony and flat in two dimensions. So, like, especially that grass at the base and the leaves and the trees feel very...
these are a huge distraction, and all your foliage in the scene is, these are really large and unpolished, you know, brushwork. It looks unrefined, and you're not worked up. It's something like, I guess if I, putting it in my own context, if I was going to plan on painting, or I was designing a scene and I know I was going to put leaves there, but I didn't get to it yet, I'd do something like that to quickly remind myself to put that. But then, you know, I'd go back and spend as much time as necessary bringing those up to a finished quality, because the edges aren't refined, the shapes aren't, there's no form in them. And then especially with the trees, where it looks like you took one brush and just stamped the hell out of it, and that's always obvious. And when something like that happens, so I definitely would work on that. You also have a light source here, yet none of these things are casting those dramatic cast shadows. You know, that you would see from something like that. Look at trees outside your window, and you'll realize that trees are never this perfect round shape, right? They're wild, they're crazy, there's branches off in different directions, so bring in some of that unpredictability in the design. You see a lot more sky holes, like, the foliage, definitely do a lot of tree studies, and remember, don't try to paint, like Adam just said before we open this up, don't try to paint it one for one what it is. Find the essence of what it is and paint that. You know, you're going to embody it a little bit more. And I do have a brief little example of that I can just show you guys, just from these artists that do that really, really well. Let me just open this thing up right here. You know, from Jesse Powell, George A. Belrook, you know, paint the essence versus exactly what things are. Because that's kind of what they teach you to do in art school, Adam. I don't know if you're... but in art school, they always, like, throw you in front of a still life or in front of, you know, plein air painting on site, and they're like, here, just paint what's in front of you. They don't tell you to, like, improve upon it work the design, finesse the lighting. It's always just like you'll see 20 different artists, and they're all student artists, and they're all just sitting there painting the thing exactly the same way, rather than finding the essence of it and exaggerating it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways, nice submission.
Yeah, definitely, and a nice polish.
I like your idea, and I love the design of the creature. But like I said to everybody else, that texture on him could use some love.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And those trees especially. You know, the character's got some nice dimension to him, but those trees in the background are feeling very two-dimensional, right?
Razkor.
What do we got here? This is very interesting.
This is a lot different of a take on this.
Very storytelling piece. I like this. Very, you know, like there's a lot of coolness going on. This almost feels like this almost looks feels like a surrealist piece, very dreamlike.
This is, I gotta ask just to start the cover, like why the excessively long format? Is there a particular reason or storytelling element that serves it? I just always gotta ask that because it other than that, it would, something like this always just the awkward format of it. It's like, okay, how did you arrive at the decision to do that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's interesting, though. It's interesting. Why? I would be a very difficult question to answer. Why? Maybe to give it more of a kind of verticality, make it feel more intimidating.
It does feel weird for me that you have this pole, though, going all the way up like that.
Yeah.
That, most people would consider this a tangent, riding the edge like that for so long. And then you're almost repeating that right here with the top of that. I mean, it's not as bad. It's a little further away, but things just are feeling so boxy in general. The space can get a little flat as a result. So it seems like this scene would have a lot more impact if you had placed the focal point either low or below, something at like that level. And you had some really, nice perspective. Like on the horizon, going on, like, and and we're essentially looking up, on a third point perspective, like this, right? So imagine that as like a grid, right? And then we see like the character here. Like this is a really bad. My brush is lagging, but see, like we're right behind the shoulder of the character. He's like stumbling into the scene, and he's looking up at all these things going on in the air, right? Like it brings us as the viewer in your scene rather than witnessing it from the third stage of a balcony in a play or like a theater. That's kind of how I feel. Which it's separate. I never have gotten frightened or scared in the theater because we're so far removed as the audience viewing it on stage. That's kind of how we feel. That's kind of how I feel anyway with the camera placement and setup.
Yeah. I would say there's two sides to this, though. I would say I don't know what your particular. I'm thinking, looking at the painting, my guess is, but of course I'm not going to make any bold assumptions, that there was a certain compositional impact you were trying to achieve something with the composition. However, if you're thinking in terms of more of an abstract surrealist type of painting, a composition like that might have a psychological feel to it, and there's something very interestingly awkward and claustrophobic about this, which is neat. But I don't know if that was your intention. If it was, awesome. I love that. Otherwise, you want to always make a more conscious decision on why you have that particular. But again, I can't say it's a very surrealist painting.
Yeah, Adam brings a good point. But on that note, we also kind of hold these challenges from a design and illustration perspective and not so much fine art surrealist. And that's why I'm glad you mentioned, but that's why, like, in my headspace, how I kind of look at and interpret these, like, why this or that.
Yeah. But it's important that the artist recognizes that, maybe recognize that might be something about your art you haven't necessarily explored in depth. You might have done that instinctively instead of consciously. And I would say, look into surrealism. You might find some artwork that really resonates with you, right? Because it definitely speaks on that level. Now, here's a creature design that's asymmetric and a little more organic in its design. And I hope this kind of serves as a good example of how that works. What a believable form we're starting to look at in terms of a design. So, yeah. Not to be too symmetrical and polished with everything, but allow your paintbrush to come up with some interesting organic forms. Really feels nice. Again, with a very vertical composition, I might add.
Yeah, but like this isn't, you know what I mean, like excessively vertical.
Yeah.
Like it's going up the side of a building. I like the composition on this a lot. I like the design a lot. I like the colors. I'm trying to push a little bit more purity in tones on these. It was feeling a little washed out.
Mm-hmm.
That'll give you an opportunity. You know, like, see, like you have an awesome situation here where you do have this shape coming down, like kind of like this, where that should be almost like a little bit darker. And then you can have the light, because you do have the light coming in like that. You have the beautiful cast shadow on the other wall there. But yeah, I'm trying to do this pretty subtle. You know, have that as a nice shape. Then if I were to select the inverse, and this is, we've talked about this before, but kind of trying to push a little bit of that ambient light in the scene to make it feel volumetric in terms of, like, you know, how it's coming out, or, you know, basically affecting some of the creature. Yeah. It's kind of all in the subtlety that you can make it. Again, I'm going a little overboard. It doesn't have to be like quite that obvious, but, you know, you do something like that and then have it kind of come, you know, spilling in to the shadow areas, which I'd get a lot darker. Yeah. Just in general, like in this whole area in here, there's just no reason to see, or that we'd want to see all of that. But, you know, I like a lot of, you know, what's going on here.
Yeah. And you even just, Tyler, with the light that you shone in from the right side, you could have a little bit of that teal lighting reflecting off the side of the head, drawing attention to those forms a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, I agree, Adam. I would definitely get a little bit darker and contrastier on the shadow side of these forms, particularly like in these. See, like, you have a beautiful cast shadow here, but knock all this back. Knock, like, this whole recessed area of his head in, and this whole. That way, the parts that do stick out and, you know, are pronounced like this, they feel like they're sticking out.
And then have that nice green lighting, like the color you've got selected right now, but just grab a nice color like that and have that light shining on the face to show that to show that the light's hitting his head from the side, the top left.
Yeah, again with the speculars, and I think another pass or so on the textures on this will make it go a long way. But, you know, like, really, like, getting in there. This is my little.
If your brush is lagging, by the way, Tyler, it might be the 2018 update, because you have smoothing.
No, it always does this. My hard drive's full. I'm on a 5-year-old machine. I'm recording. We have about 10 files open. It's a lot. It's a lot of things. But either way, I like this one a lot. I love the world building. I love the design of the building.
Yeah.
And the creature. Cool. I'd get the specular highlights on the pupil, or like the eye, and make it feel like wet. Mm. A lot of little details that would really push this over the top.
Very cool.
Right, we have a cool illustration here from Shin.
Very MTG, I might add. It's got a very, very Magic the Gathering vibe to it, which I'm digging.
Yeah, see, this is rendered pretty nicely. I like this.
Now check out how nice that silhouette reads. How that ambient fog is really creating a pop. Just do a Google. Anybody who's watching this, do a Google search for any trading card, like particularly Magic the Gathering. It's a good gold bar standard type of thing. And look at how the artist will very often create a very heavy fog in the background to make that character really pop off the page.
Yeah,
it's done nicely here in this piece.
Really nice.
Yeah. Yeah, you can see how that creates a nice sense of depth. Now, what I feel this piece could really benefit from is a little bit of a color contrast. It's feeling a bit heavy in the warms, and adding a bit of cool tone into that background mist will definitely help to balance and push that character a little bit more. It'll create a little bit more contrast. Ooh, that looks nice. That black and
just
white.
grabbing that shape.
Check that out.
And
that was cool.
Adding some cooler tones. I'm looking at you, green.
Yeah, dude.
Into. Nope, not that one. Is it this one? Oh, it's looking complete chaos upstairs here.
Welcome to my world, buddy.
Yeah. So sorry, Adam and I are doing this so late. A lot to juggle nowadays.
Yeah, it's all good. You got a little newborn girl in your house, so that's all good.
So see, what I'm doing here is, since green is the complementary color of red, I'm putting in a very desaturated version of it in the shadows, and that's helped adding contrast to here as well. And then, like you said, Adam, right? What color did you suggest for like the mist?
Well, for the mist, like kind of fog that's hiding the back of his body. Yes. I would add a little bit of a cooler, maybe a violety blue or something in that background to help push it back to something that complements the reds in his body.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of like adding like a dose of like cyan to it.
Yeah,
would be perfect, like this.
Yeah, it'll look good, nice.
Just little bit more can really help your colors pop. Aside from that, it's very beautiful, phenomenal composition and layout. Yeah. I would still go back if you do compare it to like Magic the Gathering art, particularly some of the stuff lately. It would need a lot more detail and polish, but structurally though, it's there, and that's what's important.
Absolutely, yeah, that reads really nice. I'm really digging this piece. It's a really nice job, Ship. Really nice.
Next we have Mr. Woody.
What we got? Right. Now,
a little on the lower res side. I'm sorry, folks. I cannot make this any larger because it'll look so blurry.
Yeah. Well, this looks like it's very much it's taking on the same approach as the last piece we just saw by Shin, but maybe you can see that by having kind of ambiguous values where the background red next to the red of the guy's head creates a bit of it's pushing and pulling us in awkward ways, where we'd want to see more of those cooler desaturated tones in the background and those foreground tones to have a higher contrast to really make that character pop. This character's not popping the same way. The mix and match of values and the mist in front of him is confusing, right?
The color is way too much. This is like, hey, I'm freaking blue. I'm going to get to the top of the mountain and yell that I am blue. And this is like, hey, I'm red. I'm over here hanging out. It's like the tone, particularly for the genre, or what you're going, you need to like pick one or the other and go with that as a dominant color.
Yeah.
It's just, in terms of purity, they're really about at the same level.
Yeah. If you grayscale this, Tyler, what do you think is that the bottom left?
It's gonna look. I think it's gonna look a bit muddy.
It might look a bit muddy.
That's my guess. Oh, I have to go to the right layer. My bad. Yep. It's lacking. See, like in your examples, there's extremely clean shapes of shadow and light. This is lacking all of that.
Even look, the reference of you took some shots of yourself coming out of the doorway. Look at the contrast of your silhouette next to the white background. That's what
you don't even have that from your own reference, which is the shame.
Yeah, that kind of information is important to bring into your painting as well. Either light on dark or dark on light to create that pop. Like the Nosferatu one you have there of the vampire. That one is white on dark, and look at how that pops. You're dark on light in your photo reference. That also pops, but we want to be able to read that contrast.
I tried to tell him to do this on his Instagram when he posted a work in progress, but it didn't go nearly as far as he ought to have.
Yeah. Like if you look at your image, if you look at the 3 image references of yourself just right of the of your painting, the one on the top is the one that's least successful because you've got a dark head against a dark background. It reads a lot better when it's a dark silhouette against a white background. I hope I'm explaining that properly.
Yeah, I get it, Adam. Like a lot of this it's lacking that contrast and that tone. This shape is like weirdly uniform on the leg. Mm-hmm. Basically, I mentioned this before. What you got to get a lot more. It's like I think it's practicing the rendering the forms of your textures because a lot of the times when I see you do something like this, it ends up kind of coming off as muddy. I have like, for instance, on something like this, I would have a whole board dedicated to doing like spores, molds, and funguses, and I would be like really like trying to study and plan out how those could enhance the texture and that tangibility of the design. And you could see this on full display from like a design from a Last of Us creature. You could see and almost feel all the forms, all the folds coming in and out of like where the fungus is like just mutilating itself off the contours of the human figure, which it started off with. And the leg itself, see, it's like it's not like that one straight edge. I mean, I know I didn't help with my selection, but either way, it's still pretty. It's an awkward part of it.
Yeah, you don't want to go with generic smooth forms, right? You want those forms to have life and energy to them along the silhouette, because that's essentially where your audience's eye is going to go. Right?
Woody, I think after seeing so much of your work, and I do see it on some level, usually every day, I honestly would recommend doing like still life painting for you. Like you need to practice that lighting, the form, the texture, how that all works, the materials, and nothing really does that better than an academic still life. As boring as those are, I think you'll get a lot of growth out of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Holt Walker.
Holt Walker. There's a damn cool name.
That is a damn cool name.
This immediately made me think of that Bobby Chiu piece where he collaborated with was it Kay? I can't remember who collaborated. He collaborated with somebody. The Nightmare Creature thing kind of makes me think of that. It's cool.
So this is fairly well researched. The color treatment's hurting. I think for you at this point, this piece will be a lot stronger if it's just in value. It's like, okay, here's a shit ton of green. Here's a bunch of orange. Again, all equally saturated. There's no ambient lighting like you see in these three examples. See all the nice blue, the coolness of the night, the ambient lighting of it all. This is lacking all that. So I think you can fake that it's lacking that if you just desaturate it.
No, I don't know if that top, just above to the right, the little thumbnail, the black and white. I don't know if that was done by you, but if it is, there's that composition reads. Yeah, that composition's really nice because notice how we have in that one the creatures are a lot closer to the door, so there's a better use of that negative space. Where here we have this big open area. That really that isn't occupied. It's just this big flat dead area of the wall. And if you brought in more creatures, that would definitely fill that space. I would even take that whole section and just copy paste it and just shift it over closer to the bed. Just to
I'd have to agree. Like this is the center of the painting.
Yeah.
This general shape here.
Yeah.
I mean, we could even. There's just nothing happening.
Yeah.
So when that in doubt, trim the fat off of something.
Sure. Yeah, I'll just cut that whole area out completely.
Take it, do like a skin graft, put it over here.
Look at that.
So it's already a lot better. Already a lot better.
Yeah.
Also, look at your own references. You can see like a lot of differences that happen with the light and the four walls. The ceiling, unless the ceiling in this context of the scene is painted black, it's not going to look like that. Even like you can see in here, like the ceiling's lighter, That just requires you to get more reference. That's more accurate to what you're going for. Secondly is the design of the environment in the room. It's lacking any trace of personality and character. It's like, here are 4 planes, enclose it, now we have a walled room. But look at, like, even, again, in your references, if you make more careful observations on your references, you can observe that the child's drawings are hanging on the wall. There's shelves with the toys. There's books, there's toys on the floor, there's wallpaper. See, the wall's designed, there's trim. Nothing in this is essentially designed. It's just plain, and then plain. Not as a plain wall, but it just as a planar surface.
Yeah. You break up those flat surfaces, yeah, absolutely.
You got to work all that.
And notice how one of the walls in your references, in the Monsters, Inc. one, that there's a big window on one side. That breaks up the monotony of the wall thing. Right?
And it helps bring the silhouette of the creature here, the monster.
Look at that.
So there's some things to consider, and I think it. Again, one of the best people I've studied is like Rob Ruppel. He's a art director, for Naughty Dog, and he will tell you, like, particularly earlier on, you should spend just as much time planning your image as you actually do making it.
Yeah.
Because it'll make you really... It'll get different gears going in your head, and you'll start to be a lot more mindful of what is happening, where and when and why.
Yeah.
And rather than just doing, okay, I did three comps or whatever. Some people don't do comps. It's fine. But, like, definitely I think more planning would have saved this image and, elevated it to a whole higher tier.
Yeah, absolutely. You're taking a very educated shot at the painting before you even put your pen down to draw anything. So absolutely, it makes a world of difference. All right, how are we doing? I think we're almost.
We have one left.
My gosh, I can't believe we got through it this fast. This is awesome.
And it's from Mr. Thomas Putnam.
Putman. All right, let's. Ooh, this is lovely.
Yes.
Look at that.
He does some great stuff.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, so
he referenced color and mood, which is like awesome. You got your actual photo ref, awesome. You kind of worked out a lot of your shapes, which is awesome. And you even showed us the progress, which that's cool to see. Not necessary, but cool nonetheless.
There's a lot of interesting stuff going on here.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Okay, so there's a lot of information going on here. So this would be my first suggestion. And that is, because you have such a heavy density of information, which, by the way, I love. I love the fact that you've got all of these cool gravestones of different varying sizes. There's a bit of a redundancy in their rhythm and in their size. And if you want that character to pop a little bit more, you're going to want him to stand out just a touch more. Because otherwise, he kind of gets diminished in importance against all of his surrounding detail, right? So make him a bit bigger, I would say. The other thing is, don't
I can't hear you, Adam.
Yeah, and I'm getting a lot of...
There you go. Anyways, I agree with everything you just said. I'd still be...
and the tilt of them and stuff like that, so they're not you don't get too much redundancy with those gravestones type of idea, right? For instance, you have like branches sticking out of that that mid-ground hill, the one overlapping the beast's feet in front of the mist. I would make that tree a little bit more prominent. Have it contrast the size of those gravestones to make it a little bit more, to give you a little bit more visual variety and clarity too, because they get lost a little bit. Yeah, there we go.
This dude should be like about that big. I darken the shape of the tree to pop it from the background because there's so much going on.
Yeah, there we go.
See, like, there's an unnecessary amount of... where is it? I need the darken brush. An unnecessary amount of contrast where these graves are. In addition to what Adam said about their rhythm. So again, the fix for this is to tone that down. See, like, the whole corner over here is lit up.
Yeah.
Don't need it. It's distracting. Phase it out.
What Tyler's also doing, I recommend looking at one of the pieces by Michael Kutcher, the one for Wizard of Oz, where it's these robot kind of steampunky robots that walk the landscape. You'll notice
I'm having trouble hearing you, Adam. I don't know if it's the connection.
I'm getting a very loud feedback in the speaker.
That might be my dryer, but
yeah,
I haven't had a problem hearing you until like this one here.
Well, I'm hearing what sounds like an engine coming.
Yeah,
right now.
that's my dryer.
Okay,
if we weren't on the last one, I'd go shut it off. But it's the last one. Well, sorry, folks. Again, we do like 2 loads of laundry a day with the infant. I just can't avoid it.
Yeah. So see, well, you want the light, that bright light, to only be where you want people to look.
Are you talking about the moon?
Yeah, the moon and the lantern of that guy should be the only 2 light sources. So check your values and the warmth of these colors, and make sure those are the only 2 spots where we're getting that sweet spot of color. Everywhere else should never compete with that. So you immediately know where the story is. The monster, the grave keeper, whoever that guy is, right? So nothing else is competing. And when Tyler knocked back all of that ambient fog, immediately draws your attention where you want people to look, right? The other thing is, notice that all of the action is happening on the right side of the image. You've got a lot of beautiful detail on the left, but narratively isn't contributing anything to the piece. So I'm curious if maybe there was something we could add to that section.
Either add or
give it a bit more importance. Yeah.
Like I said, add or amputate.
Yeah, but although it would really break my heart to get rid of all that.
I think you could chop a bit of it off. It is a lot of space over there. Like, even like that much.
Yeah.
And just go with it like this.
Yeah.
In terms of like the actual length, I think would be fine.
Yeah. And now I'm not craving looking in a direction where there's nothing rewarding happening. I'm focused more on the action now.
But yeah, there's a good flow to this overall. Yeah. I like it.
Really beautiful, yeah.
All right, nice submission though, Thomas.
Yeah,
really creative, nice rendering. Yeah. Some design things I changed, but overall really good.
Really beautiful.
All right, so folks, we've discussed, and we have our favorite, which we are all in agreement this month, and our favorite is Mr. Shins.
Yes, lovely, very tight, very nice design. You know, we know exactly what we're looking at, and it's very nicely. The composition's tight, the character design tight. Tyler said a little undercooked. You know, could use a little bit of spit polish.
But you know, as I said when we did it, structurally, it's extremely sound and far less problematic than a lot of other entries. Our runner-up this month is also by Mr. Thomas here.
Mr. Thomas Goodman. Lovely piece of
lovely rendering, lovely storytelling. I mean, beautiful colors, even though they're a little saturated. And you know, it's just beautiful. Like it's really pleasing to look at the eye, even though structurally I'd change a handful of things about it. I still like it a lot.
Eye candy.
Congrats,
your work
guys.
is eye candy. It's really nice to look at. You know, there's a lot to enjoy there.
Yeah, thank you all for entering. This has been fun as always.
Yeah, awesome.
I'll post something either probably on the Discord or in the Google Hangout about when we can come up with the next challenge. And yeah, thanks for watching and helping me out here, Adam.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Take care, guys.
Take care.